Deep Nutrition: Why Your Genes Need Traditional Food, by Catherine Shanahan MD and Luke Shanahan. Introduction. Have you ever looked at pictures of two siblings and thought to yourself, something's a little off? Maybe the older brother is a movie star, classically handsome with a strong jaw and sharp features. But the younger brother, born just a year or two later, has a softer look, a narrower face. He's handsome, sure, but in a different way. He almost looks older than his older brother. You might chalk it up to the roll of the genetic dice. One sibling gets the lucky genes, the other doesn't. It's just the way it is. But what if it's not? What if the difference between those two brothers wasn't decided by random chance, but by a series of choices made before they were even born? What if the food their mother ate between pregnancies could fundamentally change the way their faces were formed, the strength of their bones, and the potential they carried for the rest of their lives? This is the startling and profoundly hopeful idea at the heart of Deep Nutrition, a book that will forever change the way you think about food. It was written by Kate Shanahan, a physician who stumbled upon a secret that's been hiding in plain sight for generations. This wasn't a secret she found in a medical textbook. In fact, it was a secret that completely contradicted almost everything she'd been taught in medical school. She found it because of her own personal health crisis, a mysterious and debilitating injury that no doctor could explain or cure. Her journey to heal herself led her to question the very foundation of modern nutritional advice, sending her on a decade-long investigation into the lost wisdom of our ancestors. What she discovered is that food isn't just fuel. It's not just calories, or carbs, or proteins. Food is a language. It's an information stream that speaks directly to our DNA, telling our genes whether to build a body that is strong, beautiful, and resilient, or one that is prone to sickness, weakness, and premature aging. Today, we're going to unravel the story she uncovered. By the end of our time together, you will understand this hidden language. You will learn why the most successful and long-lived cultures throughout history never counted calories, why they treasured foods we've been told are dangerous, and how you can use their ancient wisdom to reclaim your health, reshape your body, and give the greatest possible gift to your future children, an inheritance of profound genetic wealth. This is the story of Deep Nutrition. Book summary. Let's start with a foundational idea, one that changes everything. For most of the last century, we've been told our genes are a fixed blueprint. You get what you get, and your health is largely a matter of avoiding bad luck. If heart disease or diabetes runs in your family, you're just waiting for the genetic time bomb to go off. But a revolutionary new field of science called epigenetics tells us a different story. Imagine your DNA is like a grand piano. The keys of the piano, the genes themselves, are fixed. You're born with them. But the music that piano plays, that can change. The song can be beautiful and harmonious, or it can be jarring and chaotic. Epigenetics is the study of the piano player. And the single most influential piano player in your life is the food you eat. Every meal you consume sends signals that tell your genes which keys to press and which to ignore. These signals can turn genes on or off, changing how your body functions, how it builds itself, and how it ages. This isn't a slow process that takes thousands of years. It can happen within a single lifetime. It can even be passed down to the next generation. Drive. Shanahan calls this concept genetic wealth. Think of it like a family inheritance. Some families are born into financial wealth, and they can get away with a few mistakes without going broke. In the same way, some people are born with incredible genetic wealth, passed down from generations of ancestors who ate well. They're the ones who seem to have won the genetic lottery. They can smoke, eat junk food, and still look like a supermodel at 22. But that wealth isn't infinite. They're spending down their inheritance. And when they have children, That depleted genetic wealth is what they pass on. Their child won't have the same advantages. Their bones won't be as strong, their features not as symmetrical. This is the core of what drive Shanahan calls second sibling syndrome. She noticed a striking pattern, both in celebrity families and in hundreds of photos from old high school yearbooks. Often, the firstborn child would have a broader face, a stronger jaw, and more balanced features. But a younger sibling, born only a year or two later, would often have a narrower face, a weaker chin, and less defined cheekbones. Why? Because a pregnancy, and especially breastfeeding, drains a mother's body of a vast reserve of critical nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and special fats. If she doesn't take the time and eat the right foods to fully replenish those stores, the second baby is built from a depleted pantry. The blueprint is the same, but the building materials are of a lower quality. The placenta, in its wisdom, acts like a parasite, pulling nutrients from the mother's own bones and even her brain to build the first baby as perfectly as possible. But for the second, if the mother's stores are empty, biology makes a pragmatic compromise. It builds the best baby it can without putting the mother's life at risk. The result is a child who is just as loved, just as wonderful, but who may face a lifetime of subtle health challenges, from needing braces and glasses to having a greater risk of allergies and joint problems. This observation raises a profound question. If a lack of nutrients can change the way a child looks, what does it say about the invisible things, like the strength of their heart, their immune system, or the wiring of their brain? And if this is happening within families, what is happening to our society as a whole, after several generations of eating a diet that is more depleted than ever before in human history? This led drive Shanahan to wonder, is there a universal blueprint for human health? Is there a form that our bodies are supposed to take when everything goes right? She found her answer not in a medical journal, but in the work of a plastic surgeon named Drive Stephen Marquardt. Marquardt had spent decades trying to answer a simple question: what makes a face beautiful? He wasn't interested in subjective opinions. He wanted a universal, mathematical answer. After studying beautiful faces from across all races and throughout history, he discovered one. It turns out that all classically beautiful faces, whether they belong to an African queen, an Asian model, or a Hollywood movie star, adhere to the same geometric blueprint. This blueprint is based on a mathematical ratio known as phi, or the golden ratio. It's a number, approximately 1.618, that appears everywhere in nature, in the spiral of a seashell, the branching of a tree, and the petals of a flower. It is nature's formula for strong, efficient, and functional growth. And our brain is hardwired to recognize it. When we see a face that has grown in perfect accordance with this phi ratio, we don't just see beauty, our subconscious mind recognizes health. It sees a body whose growth was so perfect, so uninterrupted by nutritional deficiencies or toxins, that it crystallized into its ideal form. This is the package deal effect. Beauty and health are two sides of the same coin. The same conditions that allow our DNA to build a beautiful body are the very same conditions that build a healthy one. So, if this beautiful, healthy form is our natural default setting, why aren't we all walking around looking like supermodels? Because our modern diet has systematically stripped away the very nutrients our genes expect, the nutrients they have relied upon for thousands of years to build our bodies correctly. We have, as a society, squandered our genetic wealth. Drive Shanahan argues that this happened because of what she calls the Great Nutrition Migration. It wasn't a migration across land, but a migration in thought. We moved away from the culinary Garden of Eden, where food was understood as a sacred connection to the natural world, to a kind of nutritional outer space, where food is seen as a processed, shelf-stable industrial product. This migration began over a century ago, when we started talking about food differently. Instead of talking about rabbit or potatoes or butter, we started using the language of chemistry, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. This shift in language was a gift to the burgeoning food industry. It allowed them to take cheap raw materials, like corn, soy, and industrial seed oils, break them down into their chemical components, and then reassemble them into something that looked like food. Crackers, cereals, snack cakes, frozen dinners, it's all just a clever rearrangement of the same cheap ingredients. Most of what you find in the middle aisles of the grocery store is, essentially, pet food for humans. This new, industrial diet introduced two great villains into the human story, two substances that our bodies had never encountered in such massive quantities before. These two culprits, drive, Shanahan argues, are the primary drivers of the modern epidemics of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and even cancer. The first villain is one we've been told is our friend, vegetable oil. For over 50 years, we've been living under the shadow of a theory known as the diet heart hypothesis, championed by a scientist named Ancel Keys. He's the man who famously told America that saturated fat and cholesterol from foods like butter, eggs, and red meat would clog our arteries and give us heart attacks. His work launched the low-fat movement and made margarine and vegetable oils seem like health foods. But there was a deep flaw in his research. In his studies, the saturated fat he used to cause heart disease in his subjects wasn't from butter or steak. It was from margarine, a hardened industrial product made from partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, which was loaded with an artificial, toxic fat we now know as trans fat. He blamed the butter, but the poison was in the margarine. The truth is, our bodies are built from natural fats. But the fats in vegetable oils, like corn, soy, canola, and sunflower oil, are different. They are mostly made of a fragile type of fat called a polyunsaturated fatty acid, or PUFA. Drive. Shanahan gives us a simple way to remember it. PUFAs go poof. These fats are incredibly unstable. When they are exposed to the high heat and pressure of industrial processing, they get twisted and damaged. They oxidize. They become something drive. Shanahan calls megatrans, toxic, mutated fats that are far more dangerous than the trans fats you hear about on the news. When you eat these damaged fats, they unleash a firestorm of free radicals in your body. It's like a zombie movie at the molecular level. One damaged fat molecule bumps into a healthy one and turns it into another zombie. This chain reaction, called a free radical cascade, causes widespread inflammation. When this happens in your arteries, it doesn't just clog them. It literally fries them from the inside out. The delicate lining of your blood vessels becomes brittle and weak, like overcooked chicken skin. Your body then tries to patch up the damage with cholesterol, forming a plaque. It's the blood clot that forms on one of these fragile, ruptured plaques that ultimately causes a heart attack or stroke. Cholesterol isn't the villain. It's the firefighter arriving at the scene of a fire caused by vegetable oils. The second great villain of the modern diet is, of course, sugar. But the problem is far bigger than just candy bars and soda. Your body sees all refined carbohydrates, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, and cereal, as sugar. A bowl of spaghetti is essentially a bowl of sugar. When you flood your bloodstream with sugar, a process called glycation occurs. Think of it like this: sugar is sticky. Inside your body, it literally gums up your cells. It coats the receptors that your hormones use to communicate, like putting glue in a lock. One of the most important hormones it disrupts is insulin. When your cells become deaf to insulin's signal, you develop insulin resistance, which leads to prediabetes and, eventually, full-blown type 2 diabetes. But it doesn't stop there. This sugar coating process creates something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And the acronym is fitting, because AGEs make you age unnaturally fast. They cause the collagen in your skin to become stiff and brittle, leading to premature wrinkles. They harden your joints, causing arthritis. They damage your brain cells, contributing to dementia and Alzheimer's. Sugar acts like a brain cell defoliant, pruning away the delicate branches that your neurons use to communicate. It's also powerfully addictive. Studies have shown that sugar stimulates the same pleasure centers in the brain as cocaine, and can be even more addicting. When we give children sugary juices and snacks to calm them down or reward them, we are inadvertently wiring their brains for addiction. So, if our modern diet is a minefield of inflammatory fats and addictive sugars, where do we turn? How do we find our way back to the Garden of Eden? This is where Shanahan's greatest discovery comes in. She realized that you don't have to follow one specific diet, like the Mediterranean or the Okinawan. Instead, she found that all successful, healthy, traditional cultures throughout history built their cuisines upon the same foundation. She calls them the 4 pillars of world cuisine. These are the foods that speak the language our genes understand. The first pillar is meat on the bone. When we cook meat with its bones, skin, and cartilage, a magical transformation happens. The slow, moist heat breaks down the tough connective tissues, releasing a family of molecules called glycosaminoglycans. You might recognize their names from expensive joint supplements, glucosamine and chondroitin. Making a simple bone broth is like creating a youth serum. These molecules travel directly to your joints, lubricating them and stimulating the growth of new healthy cartilage. They fortify your bones with bioavailable minerals like calcium. And they rebuild the collagen matrix that keeps your skin firm and your arteries strong. For generations, this was the secret to staying mobile and resilient well into old age. The second pillar is organ meats and offal. These are what Anthony Bourdain affectionately called the nasty bits: liver, heart, kidney, brain. In our modern world, we throw these away. But for our ancestors, they were the most prized parts of the animal. Why? Because they are the original vitamin supplements. The liver, for instance, is the body's savings bank, storing an incredible concentration of fat-soluble vitamins like A and D, as well as B vitamins and minerals. Brain is a fantastic source of the omega-3 fats that are critical for our own brain health. The old wisdom was simple: eating an animal's eyes is good for your eyes, eating its joints is good for your joints. These foods contain the precise, complex nutrients needed to build and maintain our own bodies. The third pillar is fermented and sprouted foods. This pillar is all about harnessing the power of the microbial world. Plants don't want to be eaten. They protect their seeds with toxins and anti-nutrients that can block our ability to absorb minerals. But our ancestors discovered two ingenious ways to bypass these defenses: sprouting and fermentation. Sprouting a seed activates its own enzymes, neutralizing toxins and converting stored starch into vitamins and proteins. This is why bread made from sprouted grains is vastly more nutritious than modern bread. Fermentation uses beneficial bacteria, probiotics, to do the work for us. These microbes are like single-cell vitamin factories. They pre-digest our food, create new vitamins like B12 and K2, and wage war against harmful pathogens inside our gut. Real yogurt, real sauerkraut, real pickles, and real sourdough bread are all living foods that fortify our immune system from the inside out. And the fourth pillar is fresh, unadulterated plant and animal products. This is about eating foods in their most natural, raw state whenever possible. Think of a fresh, crisp salad with herbs, or dishes like sashimi and steak tartare. Raw foods are packed with delicate antioxidants and enzymes that are destroyed by heat and processing. This pillar also includes one of the most historically important and controversial foods for human health: raw milk. Drive. Shanahan describes raw milk from healthy, grass-fed cows as a substance with a perfect, living microarchitecture. Its fats, proteins, and minerals are encased in delicate membranes that ensure perfect digestion. Pasteurization and homogenization, she argues, demolish this architecture. The heat denatures the proteins, and the intense pressure shatters the fat globules, turning a perfectly nourishing food into something that can be inflammatory and difficult to digest. These 4 pillars are not a diet, they are a foundational philosophy of eating. They are the common thread that connects every healthy, long-lived culture on Earth. They ate meat on the bone, they prized organ meats, they fermented and sprouted their foods, and they ate fresh, raw ingredients. By doing so, they provided their genes with the complex information needed to build strong, resilient, and beautiful bodies, generation after generation. Reclaiming this lost wisdom is the path back from nutritional outer space. It's how we stop yelling at our genes with the static of processed food and start speaking to them in the language they were designed to understand. When we do that, the results aren't just about losing weight or preventing disease. It's about unlocking our full human potential. It's about rebuilding our squandered genetic wealth and passing on the greatest possible inheritance to those who come after us. Commentary. What I find so powerful about deep nutrition is that it's not just another diet book. It's a complete shift in perspective. It asks us to stop thinking about food as an enemy to be controlled with calorie counting and willpower, and instead to see it as our greatest ally in building a healthy life. The central message is one of profound empowerment. We are not simply victims of our genetic inheritance. We are the curators of it. The choices we make at every meal are either building up our genetic wealth or slowly draining it away. That's a heavy responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity. The lessons in this book can feel overwhelming at first. Cutting out vegetable oil and sugar seems like an impossible task when they are in literally everything. But the beauty of the 4 pillars framework is that it gives you something to move towards, not just something to run from. Instead of focusing on deprivation, you can focus on addition. So, where do you start? You don't have to do everything at once. Start with one simple change. This week, maybe you decide to tackle Pillar 1. When you buy chicken, buy it with the bones and skin still on. After you roast it, don't throw the carcass away. Put it in a pot, cover it with water, add a splash of vinegar and some vegetable scraps, and let it simmer for a few hours. You've just made bone broth. Use it to cook rice or as a base for a simple soup. You've just taken your first step. Or maybe you start by tackling the villains. Look in your pantry. Find that bottle of canola oil. And just get rid of it. Replace it with butter, or olive oil, or coconut oil. That one decision alone will remove a massive source of inflammation from your diet. Drive. Shanahan's work reminds me of an old saying, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." Eating this way is like planting a tree. The benefits you experience today, more energy, clearer skin, fewer aches and pains, are just the beginning. The real gift is the shade you are creating for future generations. It's the legacy of health you build into the very code of your family line. That was a summary of Deep Nutrition: Why Your Genes Need Traditional Food by Drive. Catherine Shanahan. We've explored the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure begins when you decide to travel there yourself. The book is filled with stories, recipes, and scientific details that we just couldn't cover. If anything we've talked about has sparked your curiosity or given you a new sense of hope about your health, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see every single meal for the rest of your life. There's a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.